And now it's time for us to discuss more of the headlines and simple keywords with Adam joining us via Zoom. Good morning, Adam.
Good morning, Lena. Hope you had a wonderful Christmas.
I did. I had so many family dinners. I'm still full from what I had on Saturday.
From Saturday? Wow, that was 2 days ago. Wow, okay. You must have had quite a feast. I was going to say, I'm still full from yesterday, not quite on Saturday, but I'm glad to hear that you've had a plentiful and festive holiday, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm assuming it's not just you and I. I mean, it felt like events, festivities marking the special day had returned for the first time in full swing in 3 years. That's safe for us to assume. So we wanted to start our segment there. This is our first keyword of the day.
Christmas.
It was Christmas, in case you missed it. So churches across the country held services on Christmas Day with no attendance restrictions for the first time since the pandemic began.
Right, so quite a welcoming occasion and news for religious people. There was a Christmas Mass officiated by Archbishop Chung Sun-taek at Myeongdong Cathedral yesterday. Chung delivered a Christmas message in which he prayed for love and peace for everyone in the world. Cardinal Yoon-sik, a minister of the Vatican, currently visiting South Korea on vacation, presided over a Christmas Mass on Saturday at a Catholic church in Asan, which is located in South Chungcheong province. The Protestant community also held services to celebrate Christmas with no crowd limits as well. The Yeouido Full Gospel Church had 6 Christmas services from early in the morning yesterday. President Yoon actually gave a congratulatory message through a video at the Yeouido services. An association of progressive Protestant churches and Christian organizations held a joint service at Seoul Train Station Plaza. Meanwhile, overseas, Pope Francis condemned human hunger for wealth and power in his Christmas address at a Christmas Eve Mass in the Vatican, seemingly referring to the war in Ukraine as well as other conflicts as well. How many wars have we seen, he said, adding that the main victims were the weak and the vulnerable. He also asked people this Christmas to do something good. Earlier this month, Francis had asked people to spend less on Christmas presents and donate money instead to people in Ukraine. And in light of that, the Vatican has actually set up a webpage for donations in collaboration with a crowdfunding site in Italy. So, yes, some religious events with no restrictions taking place. So more signs that the pandemic is certainly nearing its end.
All right. And with that, we move on to our real estate market coverage. It seems that we haven't covered it in great detail in quite some time, but a lot of updates to get our listeners caught up on. This is our second keyword of the day.
Easing regulations.
So Finance Minister Chu Kyung-ho says the government will lift real estate regulations for additional areas come next month, trying to alleviate the price drop in recent months. Tell us the details.
That's right. So the real estate market has been kind of suffering from a kind of a slump recently. Prices have been going down. It might be good news for people who are looking into getting into the real estate market, but it won't be so much good news for those who are already invested in the real estate market. And she said the government will also submit to the National Assembly in February a revision bill aimed at easing heavy property acquisition taxes on multiple homeowners. He told a KBS program that these moves will help curb the sharp decline in the property market. Last month, real estate restrictions were lifted in all areas except Seoul and some areas in Gyeonggi province. Some speculative areas could be included as part of the additional areas that will be subject to eased regulations. We'll have to wait until that announcement happens. He added that if the lifted regulations don't work, then the government will think of more ways to cool the property market or cool what has been a slump in the market. This could include more tax breaks. He also stressed that unsold apartments shouldn't be bought with taxpayers' money, but that the wealthy should be the ones who buys them. So there might be some incentives for them to buy up homes that are not bought up yet. Meanwhile, she also noted that sharp hikes in electricity and gas rates next year are inevitable and that a related announcement will be made next week.
That seems to be the general trend as we look towards 2023. Price hike is inevitable in another industry as well. This is our third keyword of the day.
Subway fares.
So subway fares in Seoul City and some nearby cities are expected to rise next year after a year-long freeze amid a growing deficit. There seems to be a root cause of why this deficit has amounted to such big amounts. Tell us the details.
That's right. So next year's budget that was actually passed over the weekend did not include a budget for what's known as the Public Service Obligation Compensation to make up the deficit that was caused by the free subway use policy for the elderly. The government has so far offered PSO-related funds under a law on rail industry development, with 380 billion won provided in 2021 and 384 billion won this year. Seoul Mayor also has previously said an increase in the subway fares would be inevitable without financial assistance from the government. Free subway rides were first introduced for the elderly all the way back in 1984 under then President Chun Doo-hwan, and expanded later for the disabled and underprivileged people. Local authorities have continued to ask the government for financial aid, citing huge burdens for the cost. Now, Seoul Metro suffered a net loss of just over 964 billion won last year. That's a loss of more than up by 64% from the year 2019. This came as the elderly population jumped, so basically more people subject to free subway rides, and also the number of metro users dropping amid the pandemic as well. The basic subway fare in Seoul has remained unchanged at 1,251 since the last hike back in 2015, which was 1,051 at that time. A subway fare hike would likely lead to a hike for city buses as well. They usually start a trend of fare hikes city buses, and it could also lead to fare hikes for taxis as well, but we'll have to see if it does reach that point.
All right, with that, we move on to our fourth keyword of the day.
Phishing attacks.
So we're getting more reports on a North Korea hacker group that is said to have been behind a series of phishing attacks this year, targeting security experts in South Korea by sending them emails, inviting them to click on links to fake websites. What's the latest?
Right, so it does seem like a few of them, or dozens of them, have actually fallen in that trap of clicking on these so-called links. But the scam, which took place between April and October, involved faking the identity of local reporters covering national security, as well as an assistance to the lawmaker Tae Young-ho, a former North Korean diplomat who defected to the South and is now a ruling party lawmaker. Tae warned North Korean leader Kim Jong-un that such fraud will no longer work. Of the 892 people who received such emails, 49 had unwittingly given away their passwords by logging in and clicking on these websites. But none among those tricks were government employees, according to police, who noted the hackers compromised 326 computer servers scattered in 26 countries to mask the source of traffic. IP addresses, the type of virus, and the usage of a North Korean word in the latest scam were the same as the North Korea-backed attack on the Korea Hydro and Nuclear Power all the way back in 2014. Police cited them as strong evidence that the same group was behind the infiltration this time round. The victims all had something to do with national security. Another finding that also led police to blame North Korea. Ransomware attacks had forced some South Korean companies to pay the hackers to regain what they stole, the first time that such an exchange ever took place. Police have vowed to mobilize all resources to prevent cyber crimes. Police suspect that North Korean hackers' activities will continue, though, for some time, and urge people and companies to increase security for their email accounts and other personal databases. Authorities have also urged companies to screen or filter their employment process as well, because there have been some North Koreans who have hid their identities and infiltrated themselves as employees at these companies as well. So it's always been a long-standing issue, but it seems like the activities have increased recently.
All right, with that, we move on to our final keyword of the day.
Party meeting.
So North Korea plans to hold a key ruling party meeting this week to review this year's policies and discuss major tasks for next year. I mean, based on a lot of conversations we've had with you, Adam, and the experts in the industry, it just seems that Well, the weapons development program will continue going into 2023, and that large course of action won't be alleviated, and tensions subsequently will be increased. What can we expect?
Right. So when anything that comes to North Korea, especially under the Yoon administration, hasn't really changed much. If not, if anything, it's kind of increased tensions on the peninsula. But the ruling party's plenary session, it will be closely watched for clues about the regime's military agenda, most specifically, as well as external policy towards South Korea and the United States. It could also offer an indication of plans for possibly another nuclear test, as well as additional launches of long-range missiles. South Korea's defense authorities said they are keeping an eye on the North's reported preparations for a massive military parade as well, which offer some kind of glimpse into what the North is kind of planning. Now, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un may also use the party gathering to deliver a major speech instead of giving it on New Year's Day. So possibly more indications of where North Korea is heading into the new year. Kim has refrained from giving his New Year's Day speech since 2019, in fact, when he delivered a speech at a plenary session of the party and skipped his annual address for the first time since taking office. So it seems like his speeches or policy speeches are coming earlier ever since then. Pyongyang is scheduled to celebrate major political anniversaries next year as well. This includes the 75th founding anniversary of its Korean People's Army on February 8th. The North usually commemorates every 5th and 10th anniversary of such major events with mass rallies or military parades. So there are speculations and expectations that a military parade or some other mass rally or even a military provocation could happen next year as well, because it is the 75th founding anniversary of the army.
Thank you very much, Adam, for today's coverage. Stay warm, and I'll see you tomorrow.
You too. Stay warm. See you tomorrow.
If you're listening to our program using the podcast service, just a reminder that we do go live Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. Korea Standard Time. So tune in and help us make the show more informative by giving us your input. See you bright and early on Good Morning Seoul.